First of all, thank you for the lunch. The lunch was fantastic. It was really good. So AJ asked me to come and give a little bit of a talk for half an hour, and I said, no, 5 minutes or so. But I've been in manufacturing for more than 40 years, ranging from manufacturing modular housing to drilling rigs, and then for the last 30 years in electronics, mainly in wireless technologies, and then in flextronics, going to all kinds of different electronics. So manufacturing and manufacturing operations is kind of my passion. And AJ and I, we've been talking for quite a while on how do we bring manufacturing back to Southern California, right? Manufacturing is, it's not just the governor, right? So we're going to put together a task force on that over the next little while and try and come up with some solutions. But if you look at manufacturing, manufacturing includes supply chain. And if you look at the costs and where the costs are, the majority of them are in the supply chain, right? And that's one area where China has a big advantage, because over the last 30 years or so, even longer, they've just developed the most fantastic supply chain industry in the world. And that's their claim to fame. And if you look at in electronics like laptops or cell phones, any electronics like that, you're looking at a supply chain which is anywhere from 60 to 80% of total cost. So it's a big piece. So that's one thing that we don't have in Southern California, actually in the United States, right? Just, so we're gonna set up this, this group and see where it goes and try and come up with solutions. Just an interesting story. About 4 weeks ago, I went to the Middle East. Went and talked to, I was invited there by a government, and they wanted to set up manufacturing. And they said, Robert, we want you to set up a manufacturing plant here, and we'll give you the factory. You tell us what to do, and we'll build it. We'll give you the land. You just come in and build it. And I said to them, I said, the factory is just one part of it, right? It's a supply chain. It's the plastics, it's the printed circuit boards, it's the connectors. All that stuff comes from China, right? So there's a lot of pieces in that, and those are the things that we're going to have to try and solve in Southern California. Okay. So that's all I really have to say right now. Are there any questions or anything from anyone? Comments?
Just it'd be interesting your commentary about like freight in this country, particularly rail.
Freight, if you look at freight in a typical consumer product, you're looking at 1% of the cost, right? Even if you manufacture in China and bring it over here, it's a small portion.
So right? That's not a solution, right?
Yeah, it's not a solution. So labor, we've got lots of labor here. We've got lots of people here, very good workforce, right? But that's also a small part of the cost. It's the materials, right? It's the plastics, it's the plastic tooling, it's the printed circuit boards, all that other stuff. Even if you look at Qualcomm, right? They're a big supplier of mobile chipsets. They're all manufactured in Taiwan.
I was going to ask, how will 3D printing change this?
Don't know. I think it will change, but it'll take some time, right? You can't make an MSM chipset with a 3D printer. It's pretty complicated. So. Yeah.
Was there any lessons learned from the experience of Tesla in its most recent decision to take battery manufacturing out of California and over to another state because of the, I won't say negative situation or environment within California, but certainly not a cooperative one,
Yeah.
where manufacturing
Hard to say. Hard to say. Let me give you an example. So I was involved with Flextronics when we first started talking with Google 2 years ago about Google. Eric Schmidt actually had the concept that he wanted to manufacture cell phones in the United States, and he wanted to be able to give consumers a one-day turnaround time, right? It was a big dream of his. So Flextronics and Google said, okay, fine, you know, we'll put this factory in, and we put it together in Fort Worth. This was for Motorola, because Google bought Motorola. And we put the factory in Fort Worth, and we hired, I think, 4,000 people or so, right? Factory started running, and you know, it was pretty successful. We hired, I don't remember how many it was, but it was around 4,000 people in a matter of 3 months, and got them all trained and all that stuff. The problem was the product was just too expensive compared to other similar products. It was a good product, but it was just too expensive. And people say that they'll pay extra if it's made in the United States, but only so much, right? So that's the problem. It's a cost benefit analysis. So about Tesla, we'll have to see how it goes. You know, I don't know, but I know that California generally is not very friendly to manufacturing.
What would be friendly?
Texas,
No, I'm sorry. If California were to change, what would manufacturing view as friendly? What does California need to do different than it's been doing and did in the case of Tesla
yeah.
to change?
I think investment, taxes, you know, all those things, all those initial setup costs. I mean, it's expensive to set up a factory, depending on the product that you're doing. But, you know, a mobile phone factory can start $200 million, right? Investment up front. And if you're looking at chipsets, it's billions of dollars. So, you know, if you go to other countries like in the Middle East where I was at, or in Taiwan or in China, they see it as an investment, right? And they just do it. We don't look at it that way. And it's a competitive disadvantage from a manufacturing point of view. It's cheaper today to manufacture a phone in China and ship it to here, even with a long inventory and all that stuff, than it is to manufacture it here by more than 20%. That's a lot of money. More than 20%. That's a lot of money.
Are there a lot of environmental regulations in manufacturing chipsets?
Yep. So there's all kinds of reasons.
How about the introduction of robotics to do the manufacturing? Does it drive the cost point? So
It
now
drives
it's
the
not
cost down. It increases efficiency and all stuff, but you can do that in China too, right? I mean, Apple's doing that with Foxconn in China. Because labor in China is getting up there. It used to be 10 years ago, it was $1 an hour, all in. Now it's over $2 an hour. So they're putting in a whole bunch of robotics. I think Foxconn right now is putting in the largest robotics factories in the world there.
Are Foxconn and these companies starting to look at what's after China, like the next country where they can get cost?
They're looking at Vietnam. They're looking at Malaysia. They're looking at the Middle East. But the disadvantages that all those other places have is it's going to take 10 to 15 years to build up the supply chain capability, right? You go to Shenzhen, you can find plastics, you can find anything there. Right? You just don't have that in the other countries. And it can be done, but it takes
like a whole ecosystem.
yeah, the whole, yeah. So.
So that's the problem you see with Mexico, because, you know, I remember back in the day, you heard so much about the maquiladoras, or excuse my Spanish. Obviously, they have that cheap labor, it's close to the United States, shipping, they have the land, it's less expensive. Is that the challenge, the supply chain?
Well, they have also, Mexico has a pretty good supply chain mechanism there. They've built that up over the last 20, 25 years. It's pretty good. You can, Flextronics, I'm not with Flextronics now, but they have 3, 4 very large factories in Mexico. And they use that for very high technology products where people are worried about IP, intellectual property, right? Or when they need to reduce turnaround time, like, for example, TVs. All the TV manufacturers are all built in Mexico for the North American market because it's expensive to ship a 50-inch or a 60-inch or a 70-inch TV from China to here, right? So they do it in Mexico. So there's a lot of challenges.
Sometimes it's easier to look at individual vertical markets versus just approaching the whole thing of, we want to bring manufacturing back to California. You've done any studies on, like the things that could easily be manufactured in California that would be conducive to doing it here legally with the workforce we have, the type of materials we have access to, the markets, kind of narrow it down to some specific ones that would be good targets too.
There's been studies like that done with the big manufacturers, like Flextronics is one. I know some of the others have done that. And they do manufacture, they do have quite a bit of manufacturing in the States. But it's for the high value, high margin products, and the very complex products are made here, right? The huge volume stuff, like the iPhone 6 or, the high volume phones, they're all built in China. So anyway, we're going to put together this group over the next little while, and I'll be looking for people to join. And we'll see if we can come up with some recommendations and suggestions on where we can go. But it's not an easy task, I'll tell you. Okay? So thank you.